Jeff Ashby, we talked about earlier, I just wanted to mention that Jeff, highly competent pilot, he went on to be a shuttle commander later in his career. Katie actually flew, this was her second flight. Katie went on to fly a long-duration space station mission later. Steve Chandler, he was a test pilot in the French Air Force. And, okay, over to Steve.
Yeah, there's Chandra in the bay. I think that's Katie and Michelle observing the spacecraft before everything was buttoned up. Another of our training facilities, this is a facility called Fixed Base Simulator. It's a very realistic representation of the displays and controls. And a team of our friends would sit outside and introduce all kinds of nastiness to us while we were training. There's Jeff sitting in the pilot seat. We also had a fixed base simulator. We had a variety of simulators, including a neutral buoyancy lab where Katie and Michelle trained for spacewalks.
Let's have a little fun.
Yeah, we hoped we didn't have to do. We always trained at least 2 crew members on every mission to go spacewalking in the event that there was some issue with the shuttle or the payload that needed to be addressed. In another building, we had some simulators that were flying the jets. All of us flew, of course, Eileen and Jeff, professional test pilots, but the training is important for every crew member because you work on skills that apply directly to what you're going to do in orbit. Flying a jet is good hand-eye coordination. You learn emergency procedures, you learn flight planning, you learn teamwork, you learn how to talk on the radio on the left. You can see the VAB from the air, but that's the VAB from the ground. And here we are walking out for lunch.
Okay, so the crew heads out it's about 4.5 hours before there's the moon on the night of July 23rd. So we strapped in, this was our successful launch. And we had the technicians in the white room, they're called the closeout crew. They got us ready, and then we got in the orbiter, and we had a team I started earlier. I'm going to show you where the leak was. There's the right engine over here, and at the moment of liftoff, here it is, right? We get a better perspective as it lifts off. These are the spark plugs, by the way. Okay, that is the hydrogen that we leaked all the way up. And Mission Control doesn't actually watch the launch video, so they didn't know about that leak. So we lit up the night sky, and we were so happy. I remember what was going through my mind. There's a lot of really happy people tonight. We've got this Chandra launched, and then at 5 seconds, I thought, there's a lot of really scared people after we had the ohms burned, and we boosted our orbit a little bit. And opened the payload bay doors. Over to you, Katie.
And I just remember asking Eileen, because we knew we were in a different orbit than expected. I just said, Eileen, are we deploying today or not? And she said, we are, go for it. And we just went to work, and we don't, of course, really practice these things and take some time to basically get the shuttle. We've turned everything off for ascent that we don't need, and now we have to just start up things like the bathroom and everything else, but also just put our heads in to deploy. And I think I hadn't really, thought about how beautiful it would be and how special. I mean, it just was so clearly special to be one of 5 people getting to actually see Chandra up in space and go through this series of commands to do the checkout. We check out a lot of things before we raise Chandra up. We'd raise it up part way and then further. And this is where, as you look in the mirror top of the pointy end there, you probably call it something different. But you can actually see the dark windows of the. Can you see it right now? Yeah, right now you see the 2 black windows and the light between them. So we're actually in those windows watching the telescope raise up in front of us. And I don't know, just to really be there with the telescope was so important, and to see that view out the window. But there was we had good checklists, we had good communication, we had a team that we had a relationship with in Houston and in the inertial upper stage, and then also the Chandra folks. And I loved actually taking some of these pictures. We did have one of the first high-definition cameras up there with us that led to, with some of their single frames, some of the great pictures of Chandra that you get to see. And this is the actual moment where I pulled the switch after confirming with everybody that they're ready. and that sort of explosive zipper goes zzz, and then there's springs just waiting to push Chandra out over the nose of the shuttle. And this is where you can see that angle that's so important that Steve was talking about. And then Eileen is going to actually fire controls to move the shuttle away from Chandra, and then in the end turn our back on Chandra. And meanwhile, Chandra will, after we're safely away and actually well away, that's when Chandra actually fires her first set of engines on the inertial upper stage, or that's when the inertial upper stage fires for the first time. And then again, a more significant burn to get her into orbit. But I remember this part, and I remember feeling actually not quite tall enough to take really steady pictures. You see me with that big camera, and these are some of the high-def things, pictures that then are movies, excuse me. And they were really important in a sentimental way, but most importantly in an engineering way, that if something didn't happen correctly with Chandra, we needed to understand, exactly what configuration she was in as she left. And so all of us are focused on getting these very important engineering photos and videos. You can see the inertial upper stage on the right, Chandra on the left, and it was just something so inevitable as the sky got darker and darker. We deployed just as we were going around the Earth away from the sun. And so this is sunset on Chandra, the last we'll see of her, but not the last that we would hear from her. And I loved the stories that were told today about first light.
This is some imagery we got with that ultraviolet telescope looking out the side.
I was upset because they'd been to my house and no plants grow in my house. But actually my job was every day literally to kill some of these plants and dissect them. Understanding, for the big picture, for the way to Mars, we're gonna need food up there. We're gonna need food on the journey and up in Mars. And I'm really proud to have done this experiment, which was really the one of the first ones, or not the first ones, but it's just that it really provided a lot of good data for future experiments, and now on the space station they are growing and eating lettuce. And we've learned a lot about how to grow plants up there. To understanding what are stressors. Is it the amount of oxygen? What makes a plant feel stressed? How does it know what to do when there isn't suddenly an up and a down? And so, these experiments that we did, that, we were actually, those cards were floating, but now the shuttle was moving.
This is a test we did on a treadmill of the type that is actually now flying on ISS. For a 5-day mission, exercise is probably not crucial, but as Katie can tell you, for a 6-month mission, it's very, very important. And we made a lot of progress over the years at being able to bring back our crew in really very good shape. There's some housekeeping activities that are part of any flight. Michelle liked to joke that since he was the Frenchman on the flight, we made him the cook.
Help people understand in a sort of literal sense, why do we go to space? And it's about the fact that there is so much less gravity there, not zero gravity, but so much less. And I like to tell people we get to understand, what do pilots really want to do? And this video, tells you that it's really different up there, and it's a different lens on being able to do science, a different way of seeing things. And I think through Chandra, we've shown in so many places that when you build something different, when you find a new way to look at things, that's when you discover. We basically did a survey of coral reefs using that high definition camera, and these are the Society Islands. We call that one, I think, Pork Chop Island. We gave them affectionate nicknames, but
Halo Bay and an empty tilt table, and that's what it looked like near the end of our flight. This is a picture of the sunset as we're getting ready to fire the Holmes engines, slow down, be captured by the Earth's atmosphere, and head out into KSC. They knew we were coming around Mach 10 or Mach 12. It was really interesting to me because this was the one time I could tell how fast we're going, because we just by chance flew the trajectory that we fly in the jets when we go from Houston to Florida. And that takes about an hour and 20 minutes, and this took 10 minutes.
So this is a view as we're coming into Landing Kennedy Space Center. It's an infrared heat sight as so Jeff put the gear down, across the threshold there at 300 feet, and we go from a 3-degree pre-flare to a 1-degree attitude before we touch down. There was a slight crosswind from the left. You can see I made a very, very slight turn there, and of course the pilots had to compare their landings, so it was very important that I get that nose wheel on the center line it will stop, or I'm going to take a lot of grief from my peers back in the office. Jeff got the drag chute out, which increases stability, helps us slow down. And as we ran the post-landing checklist, this was a very, very highly rewarding mission. For us to come back and be able to say we completed the mission, we did it successfully, we did it safely. We did a walk around outside the shuttle. We got a chance to talk to the technicians. By the way, there's where the pin hit. And those phase 2 engines, by the way, were not flown again. They went to a new version after that that didn't require posts. So I want to say just a couple closing remarks on the crew movie. Again, it's just wonderful to come back and say